Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to Lionheart Studios here to see where we are going at the current moment with Project Rings. Thus far, I have made some new updates as far as the characters go, working on some different environmental elements, and working on some engine implementation just to get the world functioning so I can start to figure out exactly how to do some of the level building, and everything as far as that goes. So the last post that I had on our dev blog had to do with finishing up the high resolution model of Ezra and the low poly model of Evermore. So right now, as you can see on my screen, I finished the low poly version of Ezra, so he's all good to go. His little eyebrows pop up over his little eye holes, so he's going to be, the little sidekick character. He kind of can fit within within the palm of your hand, so he's going to be a pretty small, character that follows you around. And I keep seeing, the comparison between him and Ghost from Destiny, and it is kind of similar. Ezra's gonna have a bit more personality, as well as, he's gonna have some good implementation into the story as far as being able to explain how the world operates and, some of the backstory of the world as Evermore explores it. And he's also there to be able to ask questions about Evermore, so you can get more of his backstory, and see some of the correlation between why he's there in the twisted world of Eve, and so they just have a good relationship, with being able to do some of that story development together. So I had some input that was given to the characters the other day as far as their story and their existence in this world. So the idea of the hero waking up in a strange universe is not an uncommon idea, and as I've talked about before with the Evermore's weapon that he carries around with him, the Scroll of Bode, how the town or the tribe that Evermore is from, when a new person is born into the tribe, the wise man or the prophet of the tribe makes a prophecy about that person that's been born, and then it's sealed up in a scroll of bode and given to the person, and it only opens at a certain point in that individual's life. So a couple different suggestions were given to me as far as how I could implement some little bits and details about the world that he's originally from and this one that he wakes up to find himself in. So I mean, one suggestion was maybe Ezra as his guide is actually a manifestation of the tribe prophet. So there's that correlation between both universes, and the purpose of Ezra as being that guide, and so that was one idea that was given. Interesting idea. I'm definitely considering some of that, as well as the idea of how Evermore ends up in this alternate world. Anyway, it was suggested that maybe Evermore is a bit of maybe an impatient and arrogant person to begin with, as far as the story goes. And so he had tried to break open his scroll of Bode. And so that's how he ends up in this world, is it kind of knocks him out and, transports him to this alternate universe where maybe he can learn, not just the overall idea of, trusting outside of himself and, addressing his inner demons, but also learning patience and overcoming. I mean, with the overcoming of self, there is the overcoming of his own arrogance. So I mean, I definitely think that that is an interesting idea that I'm probably going to consider. I think that there's some nice ways to tie the real universe that Evermore is from and this alternate one that he's found himself in. So right now, I'm just going to show real quick the base trailer that I'm putting together. It's an animatic, just so I can figure out what I might want to do shot wise. It gives me an idea development wise where I need to go first. So we'll take a look at that here real quick.
I remember the day I awoke in Eve, and when Ezra found me. Life is like Eve. It winds and twists at every turn. Our nature is to try and control the path, but sometimes we need to let go of that control and trust. And, like Ezra found me, I'm finding myself.
Alright, so as you can see in the trailer, it's very rough. It's not detailed in any way, but it gives me an idea of what kind of shots I might want to use, character positioning, and things like that. So I'm also trying to figure out voiceover if I would want to have it as kind of a future version of Evermore that is doing some reflecting on his time in Eve, or if I would want to do it as a current version of Evermore that is working on his journey on the way through Eve. So depending on what I decide to do with that, will definitely determine whether or not I need to find a older voice actor or a younger one. I have a couple people in mind right now for either end of the spectrum. So I just got to figure out which direction I'm going with that. As far as music, I definitely want some. I'm thinking more softer, classic type piano music in the background. And then during the gameplay shots, something that's a little bit more upbeat. Something I really need to nail down is the name of the game. And so I've been running through a bunch of different names, and I still haven't gotten one to stick. I mean, Rings, the Rings by itself is fine. I think it's, appropriate to, the idea of how these worlds shift around, themselves, and I expect to do scenes where, you can see them as forming giant rings in the sky. But I don't know if that's exactly, the right word, the right takeaway for the title. So I've been messing around with a bunch of different other options and still just haven't found anything yet. So I've been looking up some different alternatives in Latin roots or Greek roots and things like that. So trying to find other names outside of the English lexicon that might be appropriate, that also just still they sound like they belong a little bit more with the world. So that'll be a big deciding a big decision that needs to be made pretty soon. Yeah. So, I mean, I've also been making some great progress here as far as the overall, functionality and World of Eve go. I've been working on a really big animated skybox here, or it's a sky sphere anyway. And so the way that Eve works is for the fact that everything in it is just big looping giant twisting platforms. In all, the planet doesn't exactly have any type of any real up or down, no center core mass to it. So just really trying to think how a planet like that can really exist. It made me think of a way to do day and night cycles that would be a little bit different. Is if the day and night cycles were actually controlled via the eclipse of a planet that maybe Eve is orbiting. So there would be a daily eclipse between Eve and the sun, causing a period of night. So I've been working with that. I'll speed it up because at the current moment the animation is very short, or I'm sorry, very lengthy, so that it stays night for a period of time, night for a period of time, to be able to change between the different moods and different lighting.
So don't pay attention to the character that's in the scene. He's just a stand-in from an old character controller that I built. But here, as you can see, the moon going up, it gets in the way of the sun, creates an eclipse, and then continues back down. So that was how I was considering handling day and night cycles. Since the world has no core, it's just very topsy-turvy. So that's one way that I found that might be a good option for day and night cycles to work here in Eve. So I was playing with that, as well as have been working with a dual camera system to be able to control level of detail. And then I also need to fix this ability to walk up walls. The camera is not lerping like it needs to yet between normal positions.
So either I can create some meshes that have smoother transitions between their poly counts, so that there's just more normal surfaces to draw from, or in the code I can lerp the transitioning of one normal to another in changing that local gravity to the character. So I haven't decided which way I'm going to go yet. The increased density to the mesh would be easier. However, more polys is more polys, so it might eventually have a performance hit for that, but I don't know if it would actually be that big. I can easily use some LODs in there. So moving forward, I'm definitely going to be working on. I'm almost done with the skybox, so trying to finish up the skybox. Try to get the rest of my land pieces together. There's a lot of different land pieces, whether they're kind of 90-degree turns like this one, where you just run up the surface and then run up that side. This one's kind of similar to that. So I'm just doing right turns. So I mean, there's just so many different ways that I can take these and make out different paths and things like that as goes. So then I need to get to texturing. I'm pretty happy for the most part how the texturing is coming along on the rock, these tiling rock items. I do need to go through and make a specular for them, because right now I'm just using some sliders. So I'm not entirely happy, with the detail I'm getting off of and just using sliders, so I need to work on that. But Evermore needs textured, Tiamat needs textured, Ezra. I have a lot of props that are getting, well, I have a handful of environment props that are pretty much ready to go, other than needing textured. So, that's going to be really the next really big step, is just getting all that ready to go. So, if you guys want to comment any names that you think might be appropriate for the game, I'd be happy to hear those from you. As always, I appreciate you guys stopping by. Check out what we're doing here at Lionheart Studio. Definitely would love it if you would go onto the Google Play Store and check out Gravity. And thanks for always watching.